Hi Grace Kids, it's Cheryl. And this week we're talking about how it's important for friends to encourage one another. When was the last time someone did something that encouraged you? Maybe a friend gave you a pat in the back and said, it's okay when you missed the goal in your soccer game. Or your mom sent a note in your lunch pail saying she was praying for you in your big math test. Maybe your teacher put a smiley face sticker on your paper saying, keep up the great work. Let's read from Romans 15, verse 2. Each of us should please our neighbors for their good, to build them up. There are lots of ways that we can encourage one another. Today, to help you put this into practice, think about someone you know that could use some encouragement. Make a card or write a note to that friend to encourage them. Think of a fun way to deliver it to your friend this week. You might need to ask an adult to help them with this, depending on your plan. I'm here to lead you with some examples of how to make and design a card. We're going to do a watercolor card with leaves. You can follow along or create your own design after watching this video. These are two examples of cards I made with watercolor leaves. We're going to make one today, and you get to use some of the techniques that I'm going to show you if you want to make one like this or a little bit different. So these are some of the things that you will need. You will need watercolors. So mine look like this, yours might look like this. The two most important colors that we need today are yellow and red. If you have orange, we'll use it. If you have pink, we can use that, maybe a tiny bit of green. But you really only need yellow and red. We need watercolor paper. A pad like this works great. Either 9 by 10 or 9 by 12 or 8 by 10 work really well. You will need water, clean water in a container. I like to put everything on a towel like this on a table. I find it makes an old towel works well. You'll need a pencil crayon, either orange or red pencil crayon. You need a yellow crayon, preferably one with a fairly pointy tip. You'll need paintbrush. Something like this works great. I'm going to use this one today in the video. It has a nice pointy tip that will help. You'll need a pencil, and we might use some Q-tips or tissues, just Kleenex, and that's all. Oh, the most important thing, we need leaves. So we're gonna use some maple leaves to help our design. We're gonna trace the maple leaves. So you need to collect 3 maple leaves outside. They can either be orange and colored, if you can find them. I found these in my neighbor's front yard. Or you could use some green ones like this. I found these ones in my backyard. So you need 3 maple leaves, not too big, and preferably 3 different sizes would work the best. Okay, let's get started. So we're gonna make I'm gonna show you how to make this design in our video. Now, you will notice this card, so I've taken the paper, this one was 9 by 12, and I folded it in half like this. So I took it like that and I folded it in half, and that way it stands like a nice card to encourage. This one, I folded the other direction, so you could make something like this too. We're gonna do this. So I've taken my paper, I folded it in half carefully, press carefully along the edge. Now we're ready to design our card. I have 3 maple leaves that I'm just going to use to trace. We're going to put the big one in the corner. We're going to put the medium one there. We're going to make a little group of 3. Like that. I like that. You might want to overlap them a little bit. Makes your design look a little bit more natural. But not too much. We want to keep the shape, the outside shape of the leaf fairly distinct. Okay, now we're going to trace. So you need your pencil. You need a pretty sharp point on the pencil. We're going to just carefully trace. We're going to start with the one on the top first. And it's not a race. You can go very carefully. You don't have to go fast. Try and follow all of the little leaf bumps. I love to paint things in nature. It reminds me of the beautiful world that God's created. As I look carefully at the leaves, I see how each one is a little bit different. He's made them different just like he makes you and I different. There we go. We're carefully tracing around. Don't press too hard. We're just using this line to outline our painting. Okay, now I'm going to take that one away. Makes it easier. Now I'm going to do the next one. Just holding it down. Just do the best you can. And tracing. There we go. That I'm going to finish that, make that a solid edge right in that part of that leaf. And it's all right if one goes to the edge of the paper. There, I'll take that one away. Oh, I like that. Oh, I forgot. Whoops. I want to put in the stems too, especially on the bottom too. Okay. Gently, carefully working around. If you make a mistake, you can always take the leaf off and erase the line. Just carefully erase. And then put the leaf back on and finish. There we go. Okay, so that's the design that we're going to do. Okay, now to get started with our painting. Now, you ever noticed, if you look carefully at a leaf, you can see the veins on the leaf, like that. And the interesting thing is, whether the leaf is turned orange or whether the leaf is green, the veins tend to be lighter. They tend to be yellow. So we're going to use a technique called wax resist. So crayons are made of wax. We're going to use a crayon. That's why it's good to have a pointy crayon to draw our veins on the leaf. So if you want to put your leaf beside your painting to show you where they are, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just an idea. Don't press too hard. So we press lightly. We're going to start at the bottom of the leaf where the stem comes up to, and we're going up to there. So we're going to just draw lightly like that, then like that. It's just kind of like joining the tips together. And then you'll notice it goes over to there. Whoops. And there. And then these go short, or these little short veins are also shown in there. And the veins are how the tree moves the plant moves the food, gets it out to all the parts of the plant. So they're quite important. All right, we've done one. Now I'm going to do this one. Just light pressure. And don't press too hard when you're doing this. Otherwise the vein will turn out as a thick spot. And we don't have to put every one in. We're just putting in the main ones. And we have one more. And yellow crayon will work best for this. Just do this carefully. Okay, all set. One little thing that's important to do before we start painting, it's important to wet down the watercolors that we're going to be using. We don't want to be working from little dry watercolor pucks. Notice how I'm cleaning my brush in between colors. I did it for that. If your watercolors looks like that, that's what you'd be doing. The ones that I'd be doing, just adding a little bit of water, stirring them up. Whoops. Whoops. There we go. Now we're ready to go. So we're going to put our brush into the water, and we're just going to use clear water initially. And what we're going to do is we're going to very carefully, now we're using our pointy brush. I'm being very careful to follow my pencil lines. And all I'm doing is filling in this top leaf. Work with the top leaf first. Otherwise your hand gets in the way if you work with one close to the bottom. And you just end up laying your hand on your wet watercolor leaf. So we're just making it wet. So we want it to be wet and shiny. We don't really want puddles. We just want it shiny. I have to get more water. I get a little bit more water. If I have too much water in my brush, I can just dry it on the towel a bit. There we go. Okay, excellent. If I find that I go out of the line and I've gone on to past the pencil line, that's when I can use this Q-tip just to clean off that wet area to make it dry. So now I'm going to bend down. I'm checking that my leaf is nice and shiny. Now it's ready for paint. Okay, so yellow first. We always start with the lightest colors in watercolor. And yellow, obviously, is our lightest color here. So we're getting some yellow. There we go. Oh, I need a little bit more. And notice the reason we were so careful before about getting our wet edge just to the edge of the leaf is now the yellow just kind of fills up that whole leaf shape. You want to try to stay. In fact, you'll find that you don't even need to paint to the edge. The yellow paint will just fill in where the wet water is, or the wet leaf is. Okay, so that's first. So we put our yellow down first. Okay, the next leaf, we're just going to do 2 colors on the first leaf. We're going to use yellow and red. All right, so I'm mixing my red up. So remember, it's called wet into wet. So I've got wet paint and I'm putting wet paint in. And what that does is notice what happens here. The paint blends together nicely. So I'm going to go mostly to the edge, but I don't need to make it all the same. Some of the leaves, you'll notice, are more yellow in one area and more red in another area. So I'm not going to make it even. The color of leaves is not even at all. And like I said, we're going to do this first one with just yellow and red. It's kind of a learning. Now you'll notice it's all kind of turned orange now. Yellow and red make orange. Now, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to, I'd like to get a little more red. I want some areas of my leaf to be a little darker. If I have too much, let me get my Kleenex. There you go. I have a little bit too much paint on my brush. Kleenex or a paper towel is a great way to clean off some paint. There. Okay, adding some over there. I'm trying to be very careful at the tips. There we go. And a tiny bit. Oh, I like that. So you see what happens. Sometimes you'll see there. I'm just going to let the watercolor do its magic. It often spreads out and gives you quite fun designs. And it needs to be wet to do that. If your leaf has dried out and the watercolor isn't moving and you look down and it's not shiny anymore, what you need to do is wait for it to dry. Then you need to carefully re-wet the whole surface with clean water, and then you can add some more red color on top. But it's important if it dries out that you wait till it's completely dry and then re-wet it before you begin. Okay, this one's done. Almost done. Almost done. Just a couple. Just. Now, watercolor dries a little bit lighter than it looks right now. When it's dry, the paint will lighten up a bit. So I'm just going to add a bit of paint in a couple spots. Okay, good. That leaf, I'm happy with that leaf. Okay, ready to start on our next leaf. So once again, we're using our clean water. If it looks a bit orange, it's fine. There, and we're wetting the whole leaf once again. I'm gonna do this big leaf in the corner next or second. So I'm kind of filling it in now. So it's easiest if when you wet it, you do the corner or the edges first, one section at a time, the edge first, and then fill in the middle. So we're working very carefully, especially near the other leaf if it's not dry yet. If you want to wait till that one dries to do this one, you can, but you don't have to. You just need to be careful where the two touch each other. And okay, so that one's wet. There, I'm checking, looking down, making sure all my areas are wet. Good. Now, I'm going to get some yellow. Again, we're starting with yellow once again. Remember, in watercolors, we always work light to dark. So we use the lightest colors first. They go underneath. Most watercolors are quite transparent, so we can kind of see below them a little bit, see what's behind them, or see through them. Okay, there we go. More yellow. Okay, this one I'm going to add some orange to. So I'm gonna get a little bit of orange. There we go. Now remember, we don't need to fill in the whole leaf with all of the colors. I'm gonna make that orange. I didn't put orange everywhere. I'm gonna get some red now. Put red over here. There we go. I'm just being very careful at the edge. If we go over the lines, we can always use a Q-tip to clean the edges up a little bit. There, there we go. Okay, I think I need a little bit more red. I want the watercolor to some nice swirling. Notice how the watercolor stops, or the color stops. It doesn't run out of the edge. That's why it's so important when we put that clear water down. First of all, that edge of water almost works like a bead, and it holds it in. Okay, and I'm going to add. There's a little bit too much here on the edge. It's just using my Kleenex. Okay, nice. And this one I'm actually going to add a tiny bit of pink in also. There's a lot of maple leaves there. I'm following the veins a bit. I'm going to make this section a little pinker. Remember, you can have a look at these leaves to give you some ideas. If you've been able to find some colored leaves, it's fun if you want to try and make or represent the leaves. Actually paint the same colors that they are. That's a fun thing to do. And oh, there, I'm liking this. Now look what's happened. Remember the wax that we put down? You can see there's an example where you can see the vein. It doesn't look yellow, but you can see how that wax that we put on with the crayon has given us some very light designs in the leaf, which is quite nice. And that's the beauty of watercolor, is it moves around. It can give us some very pretty designs, very subtle designs. And you know, the great thing about this is you can do a design with one leaf. If you only wanted to do one leaf on a card, we've done a group of 3. You could do one with one. In fact, you don't even have to make them orange and colored leaves. You might make yours purple or green or blue. Now it's fall, and I'm gonna do mine orange, like the fall, but you can choose. Okay, ready to do our last and final leaf. So once again, maybe you're thinking you're getting better. You're right, you'll get better as you go. You get better, and that's why we practice. You know what? And if you find the first card that you work on really doesn't work out the way you like, then do another one. It's all right. Or if you want to just do one on a little scrap piece of watercolor paper, one leaf, just to practice the first time, you can do that too. That's often what I do when I'm working on a painting. Okay, so I've wet. It's all wet. I'm checking. I'm looking. It's all nice and shiny. No puddles. I'm ready for paint. Remember, yellow first. And it does. It gets easier as you go. The more you do, the easier it gets. And you'll probably get more relaxed too. Alrighty, so we're putting our yellow down. Careful near the edges. There. Starting with the light color is always a good idea near the edges too. Okay, so remember we want to work while it's wet. So we're gonna get some orange again on this one. It goes, the wet paint goes into the wet paint, so it's called wet and wet. Gives us these nice swirls. Nice soft edges, nice with the way the paint blends together. We see the colors blend together. Some people like a brighter, bolder watercolor. If you like bright, bold colors, that's fine. If you like soft, very pastel colors, you could do yours very soft and pastel too. And let's put some red in. There we go. Now this leaf, I'm not going to put red in all of it. I'm going to add a little bit of green in the corner. Just a tiny bit. Sometimes the leaves don't all turn orange and red before they fall. So I'm adding a bit more red. Okay, now I'm going to clean off my brush. It's important that we clean off our brush. I'm going to get a little bit of this light green over here. Not too much. Okay, and I'm just going to put it on the bottom corner of the leaf and a little bit up there. This leaf hasn't turned. Not too much, not too dark. This is enough. And I'm deciding if I want any more. That's all. That's it. Okay. Tiny bit more. Looking at that final leaf, it's still wet, so I can work a bit more. And I'm going to add a little bit of pink where some of those veins are. See if I can get some interesting color combinations happening. Tiny bit of pink down where my green is, just a little bit. We don't want it to get too muddy, just a bit. And I like that. I'm going to stop right there. So we've got 3 leaves painted on our painting. We're almost done. Now the stems. Now it's really hard to paint a thin line. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a pencil crayon. And we're just going to follow just up there. Either red or orange pencil crayon is fine. We're just going to follow the line that we drew, just like that. That's all. Simple. It's really tough to do that with a paintbrush. So there we go. That's a nice finishing touch on that. Now, you might use a pencil crayon or a crayon to write a note on your card. You might want to write, get well, if you're making a card for someone who's sick. Or you might want to write, hope you're having a great day, or you're a great friend, or another message if you're creating a card to cheer someone up. And you don't have to stop at just one. I've made 3. I've got 3 cards ready to encourage 3 friends. Pay attention to the friends around you that look like they need encouragement. Make it a habit to say something kind, or write a note, or make a card and then send a card, or just be present to sit beside a friend who's discouraged. Ask God to help you be the kind of friend that encourages others and builds others up. This Sunday in GK, we are learning about the story of Elijah and Elisha. They were great friends and they stuck together. They did what they knew God had planned for them to do, and they encouraged each other along the way. Remember this week's bottom line: friends encourage one another. When we encourage our friends, we can share God's love in a big way. You never know who might need a kind word from you. Take the time to just say, hey, I know you can do this. God is with you. Remember, I'll be your friend. Tune in this Sunday to watch this week's curriculum video and learn more about this week's Bible story. Goodbye, Grace Kids. It was great to paint with you.